They called her Elephant Girl, giant witch, too big, too wrong. But when she fell by accident onto the sacred throne, the ancestors spoke her name, and the palace learnt a terrible truth. Power does not recognize titles, only blood. Once upon a time, in the shadow of the great palace of Ndibo, where golden eagle feathers hung from every rafter and the air smelled of burning incense, there lived a girl named Adaku. Adaku was born to a poor widow who swept the palace compound at dawn. From childhood, she grew wrong in the eyes of people who feared anything they couldn't explain. By age 5, she stood taller than the boys who chased lizards. By 10, her shoulders were broader than the palace guards. By 15, she could carry 3 clay pots of water while others struggled with 1. Whenever she walked past, the villagers would echo and call her Elephant Girl. The palace maids whispered, Giant Witch. Her mother, Mama Chiamaka, worked harder to silence the mockery. God made her strong for a reason, she would say, tying Adaku's wrapper tighter each morning. One day they will see. But Adaku learned early that being seen could be dangerous, so she learned to make herself small. Hunched shoulders, lowered eyes, whispered replies. She cleaned the dirtiest corners where nobody looked twice. Anything to avoid laughter, pointing fingers, and stones drawn when the overseer wasn't watching. One dusty afternoon, the head maid, Mama Ifeoma, caught Adaku lingering near the throne room. The old woman's face twisted like fermented cassava. You! Giant legs! Who told you to come near the king's seat? Mama Ifeoma barked. Adaku dropped her broom. Ma, I was only sweeping the corridor. The dust blew inside. Dust? Mama Ifeoma laughed high and cruel. You brought your village smell here. Look at you, taller than my husband, wider than 2 goats. If the ancestors saw you near their throne, they would curse this palace. The other maids gathered, giggling behind their palms. Elephant cannot sit where kings sit. She will break it. Adaku's cheeks burned. She grabbed her bucket and fled to the back corridors, heart pounding. But Mama Ifeoma's voice followed her like smoke. From today, you clean the throne room alone. Every night, if I catch you sleeping or sitting anywhere, I will tie you outside for the dogs. That night, under a moon that hung heavy, like a pregnant woman, Adaku dragged her bucket into the throne room. The massive seat of Ndibo dominated the chamber, carved from ancient Iroko wood, inlaid with gold dust and cowrie shells, flanked by 2 carved leopards with eyes of red coral. No one entered after sunset. The guards stood outside. The king slept in his chambers. Even the rats avoided this room. Adaku swept slowly, careful not to disturb the air. Her back ached from carrying firewood all day. Her feet throbbed from scrubbing floors. She glanced at the throne. So beautiful, so empty. Just for 1 second. No, she shook her head. Mama Ifeoma's warning rang in her ears. But as she reached to dust the armrest, her oversized wrapper caught the edge of her wrapper. She stumbled forward. Her massive frame crashed down right onto the king's throne. Silence. Then, a low rumble like distant thunder. The throne vibrated beneath her. Adaku froze, heart slamming against her ribs. The carved leopard's coral eyes glowed red. A wind rose from nowhere, swirling dust into shapes of faces. Old kings, forgotten queens, ancestors long turned to earth. And then, clear as a town crier, a deep voice filled the room. Adaku Ndibo, daughter of the true line, the seat knows your blood. Adaku scrambled off, falling to her knees. Ancestors, forgive me, it was accident. But the voice continued, echoing off gold walls. The false one has sat here 20 years. The true blood returns. The throne blazed with white light, then darkness. By morning, the palace buzzed like disturbed bees. Guards whispered in corners. Maids trembled over water buckets. Even the king's favorite drummers refused to beat their skins near the throne room, as if the air itself might punish sound.
Mama Ifeoma stormed in and slapped Adaku across the face. What did you do, you stupid elephant? The king is furious. People heard voices. Adaku touched her stinging cheek. Ma, I fell. The throne, it spoke my name. Lies, Mama Ifeoma spat. You broke something. Now the ancestors are angry. Out before I call the guards. Before Adaku could move, the king's advisor, Ogaeze, entered. Tall, thin, eyes sharp as new cutlasses. The girl's days, he said quietly. The king commands it. Queen Neka heard the whispers before she saw the girl. She sat in her chamber with her maids, brushing oil into her hair, but her fingers kept tightening around her ivory comb until it almost snapped. The throne spoke. One maid whispered, eyes down. Nonsense, Queen Neka replied, too fast. But inside her chest, something old and poisonous woke up because the throne had been silent for 20 years. Silent through festivals, silent through wars, even when King Okoro III took the crown. If it had spoken now, it meant something buried had started to dig itself out. Queen Neka rose abruptly, shouting at the palace maids, bring me Ogaeze. When her messenger returned shaking, he said, my queen, Ogaeze is with the king. Queen Neka's lips thinned. Then she said, softly, bring me Mama Ifeoma. That afternoon, Mama Ifeoma knelt in Queen Neka's private room, sweating through her wrapper. My queen, Mama Ifeoma whispered, it is only a giant village girl. The throne spoke because her weight offended it. Queen Neka's eyes stayed calm, but her voice was cold. Do you believe that? Mama Ifeoma hesitated, then forced a laugh. Of course, my queen. Queen Neka leaned closer. Then you will prove it. Mama Ifeoma swallowed. How? You will remove the problem, the queen said as if discussing ants in the kitchen. Quietly, no blood in public, no noise. Mama Ifeoma's throat bobbed. My queen, the king commanded she stay. Queen Neka smiled without warmth. Kings command many things. Some things still disappear. That night, a strange thing happened in the servants' quarter. A pot of soup meant to Adaku was delivered to her corner. The smell was rich, too rich, meat and pepper and palm oil like a celebration dish. Adaku stared in surprise. Nobody fed her like that. Mama Chiamaka frowned. Who brought this? A small kitchen boy shrugged. Mama Ifeoma said the palace is sorry. She said the throne room work is heavy. Mama Chiamaka's eyes narrowed. She lifted the lid again, sniffed, then pushed it away. No, she said quickly. We will eat later. Adaku, exhausted, reached for it. Ma! Mama Chiamaka slapped her hand away. Fear sharper than hunger. Do you want to die? Adaku froze. Die? Mama Chiamaka's voice dropped. When food comes sweet in a bitter house, it is not a gift. It is a trap. They poured the soup into the dirt behind their hut. By morning, 3 stray dogs lay stiff near that same spot, tongues hanging out, flies already gathering. Adaku stared, stomach turning cold. Mama Chiamaka whispered, they wanted you. Adaku's hand clenched, huge and trembling. Why? Mama Chiamaka forced a weak laugh. Because people fear what they do not understand. But her eyes did not match the laugh. The next day, King Okoro III sat on his private stool, face dark as burnt yam. Around him stood Queen Neka, Ogaeze, and the palace diviners. Adaku knelt before them, head bowed, her massive frame making the room feel crowded. Speak, the king growled. What did you do to my throne? Adaku trembled. Nothing, my king. I cleaned, I tripped, I fell on it. Then, voices. The head diviner leaned forward. What did they say? Adaku swallowed. Adaku Ndibo, daughter of the true line, the seed knows your blood, and the false one has sat here 20 years. Silent, thicker than lamb oil. Queen Neka gasped. The sound, practiced and perfect. Ogaeze did not gasp. His eyes sharpened. Who is your father? The king demanded. Adaku blinked. My father died before I was born, my king. Mama Chiamaka says he was a trader who passed through the village. The diviner stood slowly. This is no ordinary matter. The throne of Ndibo answers only true blood. It has been silent since your father died 20 years ago, until now. Queen Neka's voice shook. She's a maid, a giant nobody. How can... Silence! The king snapped. Tester! They brought Adaku to the throne room at noon. The entire court gathered. Nobles in fine wrappers, warriors with spears, even the drummers who looked frightened to breathe. Mama Ifeoma stood in the back, eyes darting like a trapped rat. Touch the throne, the king commanded. Adaku approached, palms sweating. Every eye burned into her. She reached out, her fingers brushed the armrest. Nothing. The crowd exhaled. Mama Ifeoma's mouth curled with relief. Now, sit, the diviner said.
Mamos rose. She will crush it. Disrespect. Adako hesitated. The king's eyes dared her. She lowered herself slowly. Her broad hips settled. Her weight pressed down. The throne shuddered. Gold inlays pulsed like heartbeats. The leopard's eyes blazed red again. Wind howled through sealed windows. The voice returned, louder. Adaku Ndigbo, the blood of our first king flows in you. The false one's reign ends. Screams erupted. Nobles fell to their knees. Queen Meka clutched her chest like she might die. Adaku jumped up. I did nothing, but the throne kept speaking. 20 years ago, the true heir was hidden. A baby girl, born too large, too strong, given to a widow to protect her from the false king's knife. Gasps ripped through the hall. Eyes turned to the king. Queen Neka's face did not turn. It went still, too still, like a mask. That night, the palace changed. Doors that were usually open became locked. Guards who joked with servants began walking with hands on their swords. And Adaku felt it most in the air, the way silence started to listen. As Adaku returned to her corner, 2 palace guards stepped into her path. Follow us, one said. To where? Adaku asked, trying to keep her voice small. To the ancestral chamber, the guard replied. Mama Chiamaka grabbed Adaku's wrist. Why? The guard's eyes slid away. Orders. Adaku's heart hammered. The ancestral chamber was where old royal objects were stored. Masks, staffs, beads, bones sealed in gourds. People said if you stayed inside too long, something would follow you out. They pushed Adaku in and locked the door. Darkness swallowed her. At first, Adaku tried to breathe slowly, to calm herself. Then she heard it, a soft scraping sound, like fingernails on wood. Then a whisper that didn't sound like any living person. Sit again. Adaku backed away until her shoulders hit a wall. No, she whispered. The whisper came closer. Sit again. Then she saw a pale glow low to the ground. 2 red eyes. Not the throne's leopards. Something else. Adaku's throat tightened. She pressed her hands to her mouth to stop herself from screaming. Outside the door, guards laughed nervously. She won't last. Inside, Adaku's knees shook, and then, as fear rose like flow water, she heard another voice, faint, familiar, urgent. Mama Chiamaka, my child, her mother whispered through the cracks. Don't answer anything. Don't speak to anything. If it calls your name, bite your tongue if you must. Adaku swallowed, tears burning. Mama, why are they doing this? Mama Chiamaka's voice broke. Because they are afraid you will live. Adaku's blood ran cold. Morning came and Adaku walked out alive. Not because the guards wanted her to, because the ancestral chamber, for reasons nobody understood, had gone silent the moment Adaku knelt and prayed. The same guards avoided her eyes as she passed. By midday, rumors exploded. Some said she was possessed, some said she slept with a forest spirit, some said the throne was angry at the king and used Adaku as its mouth. Queen Neka fed those rumors like firewood. She invited nobles into her chambers one by one, whispering, if we allow a giant maid to claim the throne, what will happen to the bloodline? What will happen to your children? Will she not snap our necks like dry sticks? Fear spread faster than truth. Then Ogaize moved. He began asking quiet questions. He visited old midwives. He searched the storied rooms where birth records were kept, and he found only ashes. Someone had burned them years ago. That was the midpoint where the story turned darker, because it meant this was never an accident. Someone had planned for the true heir to vanish. Someone had spent 20 years covering their footsteps. That night, Ogaize confronted the king privately.
"My king," he said, voice careful, "the birth records are gone." King Okuro's jaw tightened. So, someone feared what those records would show. And now the throne has spoken. The palace is splitting. King Okuro stared into nothing for a long time. Then he whispered, "If she is true blood, then my crown is theft." Ogaize did not answer because outside, Queen Neka was already sharpening her knives. She sent Mama Ifeoma to the kitchens again. This time, the poison was meant for the head diviner, the one pushing for truth. Adaku, passing through with water pots, heard the faint clink of a calabash and saw Mama Ifeoma shaking hands. She stepped closer. The smell hit her first. Bitter leaves and something metallic. "Stop!" Adaku's voice boomed before she could soften it. Mama Ifeoma spun a calabash, shattering. "You!" Adaku grabbed her wrist. "Who sent you?" Mama Ifeoma's eyes slid away. "The queen. She said you will reign Endihibo, a giant queen. The ancestors laugh." Guards rushed in at the sound. Mama Ifeoma screamed, "She is a witch! She's stealing the throne!" But the poison on the floor spoke louder than her mouth. They dragged Mama Ifeoma away, and suddenly the palace understood something terrifying. If poison was moving, then war had already started. Dawn broke with war drums. Queen Ineka stood before the full court, flanked by 20 loyal warriors. "This maid is no heir. She is a curse." The throne spoke in anger. The crowd wavered. Some nodded, still afraid of Adaku's size. Some looked away, afraid of the throne. King Okuro raised his staff. "Let the throne judge." Adaku walked forward, heart pounding so loud she thought the ancestors could hear it. Mama Chiamaka stood behind her, hands clasped, lips moving in prayer. Adaku sat down. The throne rose 6 inches off the ground. Ancestral faces swirled in golden smoke. Kings, queens, warriors of old. Their voices thundered as one. "Adaku Ndigbo, true daughter. Okoro, false king. The reign ends now." A scream tore through the hall. Queen Neka drew a hidden dagger. "Never!" She lunged. Adaku caught her wrist mid-air. The queen gasped at the strength in those massive hands. For a heartbeat, the whole kingdom held its breath. Adaku's eyes fixed on the queen. All this fear, all this poison, because of a child? The ancestral voices roared. "Confess!" Queen Neka's arm trembled. Her dagger clattered to the floor. Then her body collapsed like a broken raffia basket. "Yes," she sobbed. 20 years ago, I switched the babies, sent the true hair away. I told them she was a monster. I said she would end us. I said she must die." Silence fell, heavy, holy, deadly. Warriors turned their spears on the queen's men. Steel clashed, blood sprayed the marble floor. Traitors fell one by one, fighting like cornered dogs. Adaku did not move. Behind her, the throne blazed like judgment itself. Queen Neka crawled forward, tears cutting lines through her powder. "Mercy," she whispered. King Okuro's voice came out rough. "Strip her of title, banish her to the forest, let the ancestors judge her there." Queen Neka screamed as guards dragged her away. Then the king stepped forward slowly. He looked at Adaku not as a maid, not as a giant, but as the consequence of a lie. He said, "I ruled well, but not by blood." He removed his crown and placed it at Adaku's feet. The court knelt like a wave bowing to a new tide. Mama Chiamaka rushed forward, embracing Adaku with shaking arms. "My child, my queen." Tears fell hot and unstoppable. Adaku whispered into her mother's wrapper, "You were always my mother." She lifted the crown, heavy, real. She placed it on her head. The throne settled back in place. The light faded, but the leopard's eyes stayed red, watching, protecting. Months later, Queen Adaku Ndigbo rode through villages on a horse bred for her size. No longer hunched, no longer whispering. Children ran beside her, no longer throwing stones. "The strong queen," they shouted. Mama Chiamaka became first advisor. Her sweeping days over, Mama Ifeoma swept the palace floors alone, muttering apologies to the wind. And the morale spread like wildfire. Power does not recognize titles, it recognizes truth. The throne knew. It waited 20 years for the giant maid who sat by accident. And high above the palace, the golden eagle feathers swayed, as if nodding approval to the new reign. And so, the story of Adakundigbo was carried from fire to fire, from mouth to mouth, a reminder that power does not recognize titles, only truth. If this story moved you, stayed with you, or stirred something deep inside you, let me know. Like it, share it, and leave a comment telling me what part spoke to you most. And follow or subscribe for more stories where forgotten voices rise, the ancestors speak, and the throne is always listening.